This is a quick overview of the new LDAP integration feature added in AppGini 24.10 and higher. So to set up this feature, it's disabled by default. To set it up, you have first to enable the LDAP extension in PHP. And then after you enable it, a new tab will appear in the admin settings page. So if you go to the admin settings page, here is the new tab, LDAP settings. This will not appear if LDAP extension is not enabled in PHP. So you have to enable it first, and then this tab will appear. If you go to this tab, you can set up LDAP integration. So basically, if you have an LDAP server containing users and you would like to allow users to log in through their LDAP username and password instead of the username and password stored in AppGini, you should adjust the login method from default to LDAP. The default method is the normal login method integrated into AppGini from the very beginning, where usernames and passwords are stored inside the database of AppGini itself. If we change that to LDAP, we are now switching to the database of LDAP. Here, we'll add the LDAP server URL. It could look something like ldap.example.com, or if you're using an SSL server, it should be LDAP-S, like this example, and so on. If you want to specify a special port, you would specify it like this. So in my case, I'm using a test server, and the server address is LDAP-mock. So I'll stick to this, but in production, you would typically use something that looks more like these examples. For LDAP version, it should be either 2 or 3, and I'll leave it at 3 here because that's what should work on most servers. Now, very important two settings in here is how to wrap the username when logging into LDAP. This differs from one server to another, and you should consult your server documentation. For the test server I'm using, I should prefix the username with UID equal, and I should add a suffix to it like that. The organization unit equal people, and this part depends on the domain of the server. In my case, the domain of the LDAP server I'm using is ldap-mock.local, so I'm using dc equal LDAP, then dc equal local. If your domain is maybe ldap.example.com, this would usually look like dc equal LDAP, dc equal example, dc equal com. So it's like you are separating the different parts of the server domain, and each part would come separately as dc equal that part, dc equal the next part, and so on. This usually is documented in your LDAP server documentation, and you should reference it to know the exact suffix to add here. And the final setting is if a user is signing in through LDAP, that user either exists in the members list of your AppGini application or it doesn't. So in case it does exist, the user will be able to log in, no problem. But in case that username doesn't exist, you have the option to either disable login. If you choose this, disable, only admins can add users. So if the user is not listed in the members list of AppGini, even though he is registered in the LDAP server, he will not be able to sign in. Another option is if the user doesn't exist in AppGini, but has signed in successfully through LDAP, you can automatically add that user to AppGini and assign him to one of the available user groups. This is a list of the groups available in this AppGini application. What you see here is all the groups except the admin group. You can't automatically add an LDAP user to the admin group. You have to do this manually after the user signs in. You can go to the admin area and move that user to the admin group. But here you're telling AppGini that if a user doesn't exist and has signed in successfully through LDAP, that user should be added to the consultants group, for example. So these are the settings that need to be made in order to enable LDAP. I'll save the changes. There is a very important warning here. Before enabling LDAP login, make sure that admin username, I'm using a username of admin here. This is my username while signed in to AppGini. So this warning basically tells us that that username must exist in LDAP. Otherwise, you will not be able to sign in as admin. So once you enable LDAP, the login is switched from AppGini to LDAP. So if the admin user doesn't exist in LDAP with that very same username, the admin will not be able to sign in to AppGini. In that case, if that unfortunately happens, you would have to manually edit the config file to disable LDAP and re-enable the default login in order to be able to sign in again as admin. So before you enable LDAP login, you have to make sure that your username, your admin username in AppGini exists exactly the same in LDAP so that you can sign in to AppGini as an admin. Otherwise, the admin will be locked out of AppGini and will have to manually edit the config.php file to disable LDAP and enable the default login so that he can sign in again. So this is a very important warning that you have to make sure you're aware of. I'll save the changes now. Changes saved. I'll go back to the admin settings and here are the changes I made. Now before signing out and trying to sign in as an LDAP user, I want to show you the list of members that are available in this application. So currently we have 7 members and I have 3 other members that are available through LDAP, developer 1, developer 2, and developer 3. They don't exist in here. So according to the settings we made, I'll go back to those settings. Any new user signing in through LDAP will be automatically signed up in AppGini and added to the consultants group. So this is what I'm going to try now. I'll sign out. Once I sign out here, if I try to sign in with any of the existing users in AppGini, if that user doesn't exist in LDAP, he will not be able to sign in. So your previous login attempt failed. That's because sign in is now verified against LDAP server rather than against the AppGini database. So I'll try to sign in with a user from the LDAP server, developer 1, and his password. Sign in. And I'm signed in as developer 1, even though developer 1 didn't exist in AppGini, but it exists in LDAP, and that user has signed in. If I check the user profile, I can see that that user is signed up to the consultants group, exactly like I set that user up. I'll try to sign in with another user, developer password, sign in. And I'm now signed in as developer 2. This is a user that exists in the LDAP server, didn't exist in the AppGini database, was signed up automatically and added to the consultants group. So this is basically how LDAP integration works in AppGini.